Hi everyone, my name is Anna Blanco and today I'm going to be doing a book review of Celeste Ng's Little Fires Everywhere. I just have to say I've read a lot of books this year so far, but this one is definitely one of my favorites. It talks so much about women's issues, motherhood, womanhood, what it means to be a mother, and I've just really enjoyed reading it. I think it's a brilliant work, and honestly the series, I haven't watched it yet, but I'm really excited to, because if it's anything like the book, it will be absolutely amazing. So yeah, let's get into it. So the first thing that I want to mention is that the book is written in third person, which I think is a great choice for it, because we as the audience get to see the perspectives of everyone that's in the novel, rather than just getting one character. Like, I feel like if we were to pick a character like, I don't know, like Pearl or Mia, or like do chapters that focused on each of their own internal thoughts, I don't think we'd get as a complete view of what life was like in Shaker Heights for all of them. So I think that doing it in third person really just allows us to see into every character's motivations, actions, and like why they're doing what they're doing and what they're thinking at certain time periods while other characters might be doing other things. I also think this is really helpful because it helps Celeste Ng to be able to go in and out of chronological time. So like sometimes we'll have periods of time that follow, and then sometimes there won't be, which I personally really enjoyed because I think it allows you to get backstory on a bunch of the characters. And yeah, it just makes for a really complete, holistic kind of perspective and view of the novel. I also really like that even within the third person, there was still some kind of like window into a certain character. Like, the chapters were usually focused on a character, but not in first person, which I think was really beneficial because, again, you get to see their impact on the other characters that surround them. So yeah, that is my take on the perspective that the book is written in. So I really enjoyed that. I highly recommend reading this book if you're someone who is kind of a gossip and likes to know what's happening with everyone at all points in time in the book. This is really awesome for that. And then just a little bit about the setting. Like, I really love the setting of Shaker Heights because, without getting into any spoilers or anything, I mean, there's obviously going to be some kind of secrecy and some little suburban drama that you wouldn't usually think happens in the suburbs. So I think just setting it somewhere in Shaker Heights really just is kind of impactful for the novel because it gives it more of a specific kind of niche, like suburban little life that you would never expect all of these things to be happening in. And at the same time, you would expect it to be happening in, because where else are you going to go to hide if not a suburb? So yeah, I really enjoyed that. And then to get into a little bit of the themes of kind of women's issues and just feminism, honestly, I'm going to have to start off with just like the feminine experience and like womanhood. I think something that this novel does extraordinarily well is showing how women often have to give up some of their dream or some of their some motherly instincts within them. And without getting into it too much, we see this a lot through Elena Richardson, who is the mother of the Richardson children, which would be Izzy, Moody, Lexi, and Trip. And Elena's just one of those characters who, like, you're supposed to hate, but at the end of the day, I can't hate her. I really can't, because just behind her character is just a woman who wanted something so badly, wanted a career, and just wasn't able to go all the way because she also had that dream of wanting children. And I think that just kind of allowed me to expand my view on what this world currently and back in the 1980s allowed women to do, and like, can we really have it all? And honestly, after reading the novel, like, I don't think that we can have it all. I think that women sometimes do have to make a choice of which area of their lives they want to focus on. Because if you want to be this great star in the career world, you can't possibly also give 100% to being a mother, because you can't give 100% to everything in your life. That's just, you can't do that. That's not how it works. So I feel like in order to be a good mother and good at your career, you're gonna have to give up the ability to be great. And I just think that that's something that's really shown through Elena's character, and then even in her foil, kind of, which is Mia, who also has a daughter. Her name's Pearl. You kind of see that in Mia as well, and it's like, yeah, Mia is really good at what she does and she's amazing and she's sold some pictures, but she's still not incredibly famous. And I think a large part of that has to do with Pearl. I don't know, like if things had been different and if Elena and Mia had never had children, would they be successful? I mean, would they be more successful? Would they be famous? Would people know, like, would they be household names? I don't know. And then I think it's also really interesting that we can see that men don't have to make the same choice. Because as we see in Elena's husband, he is just incredibly renowned in his field. He's a lawyer, and he has a lot of prestige, but he's also a father. But the world in which you have to choose doesn't really impact him as much because he is a man and he doesn't have to take as much responsibility for the children as Elena does. And I think that's also really interesting, which kind of just brings me into another theme that the novel kind of explores, which is just how do fathers kind of shape the lives of their children versus how mothers shape the lives of their children. And I think it's really interesting because you have all of these fathers and male characters that we never really see a bunch of. Like, we get some kind of snippets into their minds, and even with some of the male children, we don't get as much from them as we do from the women. And I think it's just because naturally they're just not as present in the lives of their children, and in this society, like in Shaker Heights, they weren't expected to be. Like, they were expected to go out, make the money, while the women stayed at home and cared for the children. And then this case is really interesting in the situation of Mia and Pearl because, again, no spoilers, but Pearl doesn't really have a father figure in her life, and we get this really early on. And just seeing the kind of way that Pearl and Mia have to kind of make it on their own without a man in their lives versus the Richardsons, who do have this man in their life, and could that possibly be the reason why they're so well off? I mean, additionally, you have Elena's family's other income, and the house that was inherited, but still you have that presence of a male whose duty it was to go out and make money. But yeah, I think that the idea that the fathers were so absent and we barely got to hear from them in the novel versus how much we heard from the mothers was just a very interesting comment on what society was like in Shaker Heights, and honestly what society still is today. A lot of fathers aren't as present as they should be, and it's just excused because they go out and they make the money. But then we also get into that kind of moral discussion of, well, is that necessarily wrong? Like, why is it wrong for a father to go out and make the money and for a woman to stay home? And again, of course, it should be a choice whether or not a woman wants to stay home or wants to go into a career, but then we get into that choice again of what a woman has to choose between. And really, can there be a choice? Should women have the choice? Because if we do, we're always going to be split between being career women and being mothers. But if we do have that choice, if all women have a choice, there's barely potential for one woman to go out and succeed and be great because she's expected to also have children. So I just think the novel kind of really makes you think of how many restrictions are placed on women. And even though, yeah, we have a choice, do we really have the choice to be great while society still expects us to be mothers and be the primary caretakers of our children? I also wanted to touch upon just the idea of womanhood and what it means to like be a woman in society in relation to other women. So something that happens a lot in the novel is that you'll see women helping women, and it'll just be like, even in the presence of a mother figure, or even if two of the characters don't really have a super solid friendship or relationship, like you will still see them reach out to the other women in their lives and bring them in and say, hey, I need support. And the other women are there like, absolutely, I will come and support you. So I just think that was really awesome to see in the novel, because a lot of time, like, it's easy to say that like girls will just bash other girls for no reason, but I honestly think at the end of the day, like, if a woman sees you struggling, she will try and help you, because there's just that shared common experience that most women face, and then they kind of understand your pain in a way that a man can't. So I think that was really interesting. But with that being said, it also calls into question the motivation that some women have for helping other women. Like, again, we get this in the case of Elena, whose character is highly flawed. I'm not saying she's not, but sometimes she does go out of her way to help people. But is her helping people altruism? which I think is another great theme that the novel explores. It's just like, how many of our actions are truly altruistic, and can any actions ever be truly altruistic? Like, do women help other women just to help them and because they can see what they're going through and really are just empathetic and want to help? Or do they expect something in return? And again, we see this in the form of Mia and Elena and their vastly different approaches to parenting, relationships, and friendships just in general. Mia goes in and she really doesn't expect anything back from anyone, but Elena, time and time again, after she's helped someone, she does go and expect a favor back in return from them. So I also thought that was really interesting. But overall, this was a really, really excellent book, and I think the themes that it explores, just really, they make you think a lot about what it means to be a woman in Shaker Heights in the 1980s, but then also extending that to how much of those ideas are still relevant today. Like, I think the idea that women have more, again, I'm sorry, I'm going back to this, but I just think that women do have more restrictions placed on them in society. And I think that Little Fires Everywhere is a perfect example of that, because even it's the female children who are really explored and given in-depth treatment in the novel. It's the female mothers. It's honestly the case of Bibi and Mrs. McCullough over Mirabel Mei-Ling, which is explored a lot in the book, and you just see this fight between mothers, and the fathers really aren't that present. Just even in the case of their lawyers being men, but they still can't really grasp what's happening and like why it would be so impactful for Bibi and Mrs. McCullough in the custody case of Mei-Ling Mirabel. And I think it also goes into question like, what makes a mother? Because in that whole case you get, and like with Mrs. McCullough, is a mother someone who gives you her love after everything you've been through, and like someone who's just there for you and provides you love and support? Or is a mother blood? Is that what it is? The blood that runs through your veins, should it be as simple as that? Or do we need to take into account the circumstances surrounding everything? So I think that's also really interesting to know. And again, just with Mia and Pearl, that also comes up in a really interesting way. And I just think the novel does a great job of exploring what it means to be a mother. And even still, like, I was left wondering, like, man, like, who does Mirabel really belong with? Who does Mei-Ling really belong with? Like, what is a mother? So I just think the book really is thought-provoking in that way. Thought-provoking in a lot of ways, honestly. And it also gives really great comments on, like, secrecy in the suburbs, which I've kind of touched on a little bit, but there's just so many hidden layers of things, so many just intense kind of like little secrets, not to be cliche, but so many little fires everywhere. There are a lot of things buried beneath the surface that kind of go on and drive the plot, but nobody comes out and speaks about them. I think another really interesting thing that the novel touches upon is pregnancy. And we see this just in the form of a lot of characters, no spoilers, but just the idea of pregnancy and what that means for women. I believe Elena's mother actually said to her, I hate those women that just stay at home with their children all day, like they're not doing anything with their lives. And I think that's such a backward take, because I think that we are trying to move into a world where women can choose to stay home and take care of their children and can go to work and just be focused career women. But yeah, I think that pregnancy comes up in this novel in a lot of really interesting ways, and then how women handle pregnancy and the different situations that they're in, and just how, like, the responsibility that mothers give to their daughters in terms of pregnancy, but not to their sons. There's a couple of situations in the novels where there are adult female figures getting really angry at younger females for getting pregnant, saying, oh, you should have been more responsible. You're more responsible than that. But then again, no blame is really placed on the males. It's just pregnancy kind of does have a really big driving factor in determining, like, the responsibleness of a woman. And it's like, if you do get pregnant below the age of 18, like when you're still in high school, like you're like you're a slut, you're not responsible, but the men really don't have to take too much accountability for that, and they don't get called all of these kind of names, and they don't really have to share the burden of that responsibility as much. And I also think, talking about that, there is a situation in the novel where you are confronted with the idea of someone having a baby, and then just the men in that person's life just are completely against the idea of having a child. And I think that just also goes to show how much more women sometimes can be more innately nurturing and innately like wanting a child to fulfill some kind of need in their life, which sounds really cynical and backward, but I do at the end of the day think that a lot of women are fulfilled by being mothers, and a lot of women are fulfilled by being careers. I think it is a choice, but I also do still question whether there can be a choice if women are ever to truly be great and on the same level of men as men. But with all that being said, I do think this was just a fantastic book. The plot, the setting, the choice of narration, even the character development, honestly. Well, development. Not the character development, because honestly, there was some slight character development, but it wasn't anything astounding. But just the character creation, just building this world of Shaker Heights and just making it really feel like you were in Shaker Heights, I think was really well done. Like, I felt like I was just riding bikes alongside Moody and Pearl, and I felt amazing reading this book. And it's really like, it makes you think. I found myself critically thinking while I was reading it, and I just it's probably one I'll come back to in the future and try and read it again when I'm older and read it with a different lens. Maybe someday I'll come up with an idea of what a mother truly is and who Mirabelle Mei Ling should have gone to, but for now, I'm really just happy having read this book and having experienced all of the thought-provoking themes that the book explores. Yeah, thank you.